So today, what I want to talk about is how to determine if a person is cursed. Question that I've been getting a lot of lately is, how can I tell if I'm cursed? I've even had several readers who have contacted me who are basically like, okay, so I have a client come to me and the client is wanting to know if they're cursed. How do I determine that? There's certain things that can point to it, but the easiest and the surefirest way, the most accurate way to determine if a person is cursed is to do what I call the olive oil test. Okay, the olive oil test works on basic occult principles, which stipulate that as long as everything in a client's life is normal, if their energy is normal, if they're not surrounded with negativity or even an influx of positivity, if everything is neutral and as it should be and balanced, then the rules that apply to certain things stay coherent. But if there is something that is out of whack, something that is out of the ordinary, that is unnatural, that is affecting the person, and this doesn't mean like sickness or anything along those lines. This means any type of deliberate negativity, something that is being projected to the person on purpose, sometimes not on purpose. But if there is negativity being projected to the person, then things will tend to be out of whack a little bit, and very basic rules of the physical world will sometimes bend a little bit to point to that imbalance. How do you go about doing this? Okay, so first off, let's discuss what curses are. Okay, so you get that thrown around a lot. Oh, somebody's got me hexed, or somebody's got me cursed, or somebody's got me, they're working on me, or whatever it may be. Get that a lot. There's a difference between a deliberate magical / spiritual attack and a casual projection of negativity. Okay, so the best way that I can describe this is that if you've ever been around a person, could be a friend or a family member, who for some reason or another was depressed or upset about something, and you go and you talk to them about it, or they come to you and they say, hey, look, I really just need to unload on someone and get this out, and then they leave and you just feel completely drained. Okay, the reason for that is that they are coming to you with a great deal of negativity, a great deal of negative energy, a lot of depression or anxiety or whatever it may be, and that is contagious. That emotion is contagious by its energy. Okay, so it tends to affect other people, and it will affect some people more than it will affect others. It may not affect some people at all because they have a stronger willpower to remove the effects of that, or they resist it. But for the most part, that energy, whether it affects you or it doesn't affect you, will linger. Okay, it will linger around in the area where the person was. So you walk into a sick room, it has a certain feel to it. You walk into a funeral home, it has a certain feel to it. You walk into a church, it has a certain feel to it. You walk into a person's temple room, there's spiritual space, it has a certain feel to it based on how much energy is concentrated in that area, how often they use it, how much they do with it, how good of a mood they feel in, different things. Okay, so all of these things imprint on the environment. Okay, and so when you have enough of that built up, it starts to affect the physical world. Okay, so if somebody's passing by you and they see that you are an attractive person and they get a bit of jealousy and they go, oh, look at that person, they project negativity towards you. That's called the evil eye, so to speak. They get jealous of whatever you have. They see you have a nicer car or a nicer house or whatever it may be. They project their negative input or their negative energy towards you out of jealousy or anger or greed or whatever it may be. Whatever negative emotion it is projected to you. And for the most part, if it's just a passing thing, it'll either bounce off of you, or sometimes it can latch onto you, onto your energy field, your aura, so to speak, and it can linger there if you don't clean it off. And if you get enough of it, then it starts to have an effect on you. It builds up. Okay, so if you've got trash off somewheres, and it's not a whole lot of it, but you keep dumping more trash, eventually you start to smell it, and eventually it starts to have a negative impact on the environment. And so that's what happens when it comes to curses and negative energy. How do you determine if a person has a lot of negative energy or is being cursed, so to speak, by another person or a group of people or whatever it may be, there's a simple test, and this is what we're going to do. It's called the olive oil test, and it works on basic occult principles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you. Use bowl of water and a little bit of olive oil. It doesn't really matter what kind. It doesn't have to be extra virgin or whatever it may be. Whatever you've got in your cabinet. Most people have olive oil in their kitchen cabinet. It has to be olive oil now, because olive oil has certain magical connotations to it. It's very sensitive to energies. So use the olive oil. Don't use like regular cooking oil. So what you do is you pour a little bit of olive oil in the water, and if everything is normal, then it should form just a little sphere, little circle of olive oil that floats on the water, because we all know oil and water don't mix. So we all know that. So what we're looking for is you have the person, or yourself if you're doing it for yourself, put their hands on the side of that bowl and just let their energy absorb. Let their energy show. Let it flow through into the water and into the oil. If everything is good, then the oil will stay in a perfect little circle and it won't do anything. If the person has a lot of negative energy, or if the person is suffering from a curse, the oil will begin to shift, move, and it will disperse across the surface. It will spread out somewhat. It won't be as quite confined as it has been. But it does take time. And I'm going to show you an example of it here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up, and then I'm going to put my hands around the bowl, and I'm going to project negative energy as though I were putting a curse on someone. And before anybody gets all bent out of shape about this, I don't make a habit of going around cursing people. But as an occultist, you learn to manipulate and move energies. Okay? And so this is an example of that and how it works. Now, before anybody says anything, I did speed this up. Okay? So when you look at it, it's going to look pretty dramatic. Okay? The whole process takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. The person should hold the bowl for 20 or 30 minutes, and then you should examine the oil from the time that it starts to the time that it finishes to see if it's moved, if it's dispersed, if it's done anything different. So rather than just stare at a blob of olive oil floating in water for 30 minutes, I went ahead and I sped it up. So it does look a bit dramatic before anybody makes any comments about it. It is sped up, okay, but this is actually the test and how it looks when you do it, so you'll have an idea. All right, so let's get started on that. Before I get started on that, though, I'd like to give a shout out to our people, my supporters in Patreon. Leah, here's your shout out. And I'd like to just thank you personally for all your support, and watch close. All right, so once you've got the olive oil in the water, you can see that the oil and water don't mix. The olive oil stays separate from the rest of the water. It stays in a perfect little circle like you see here. You can see it actually hitting the oil and pulling it out, breaking it. All right, so as you can see, the oil dispersed out. Again, please remember, before you go comment down below, this was sped up so that you could see the effects of the negative energy. That whole thing happens in such a slow fashion that at times it doesn't look quite that dramatic, okay, in the actual time frame that it works in. So anyway, that's how you tell the difference. So stay tuned, and I'll show you how to get rid of that negative energy in our next video.